kingdom of Israel!
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
The book of Psalms, chapter 16 and verse 11. It says, "Thou wilt show me the path of life." So we're on the path of life. The path of life leads to paradise. The path of life leads to glory, which the glory is the kingdom of heaven. And we're on that path of life. We're walking on the path of the tree of life to gain eternal life.
Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If then God so clothe the grass which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
To eternal peace and joy.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rekakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh. To the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right. And what I want to get into, all right, this morning, another morning news and prophecy, as we know, in these end days, the scriptures speak about, war, famine, and pestilence, and I'm quite sure you brothers, all right, and you few sisters have heard, about, this cruise ship that's been stranded, where there are people infected by this, deadly virus, this hunter virus. And this all plays a part in prophecy, man. Now, whether or not, this devil, runs with it, with the narrative and make it, a thing, All right, like the 2020, Lord will, He does, you know, because this is just going to forward, all right, the end of Esau's kingdom, you know, and it's going to bring in and usher in a righteous kingdom, okay? Well, Yahweh Shai is going to usher in that righteous kingdom, okay? So everything is working, you know, on our behalf, man, you know, brother. And we're going to get this precept a lot, you know. It's a constant reminder for a brother want to post Romans 8 and 28 Bible Shai. You know, we're going to get this a lot because it's true. It's happening, man. You know, so you have the war, all right, this constant, you know, back and forth between America and Iran, which we know is going to escalate to a full world war, okay, where these superpowers are going to get directly involved, okay, you know, and eventually it's going to even go nuclear, okay. But while this war, okay, is you know, in progress, you know, we're going to see other prophecies, you know, like the pestilence, you know, like the famine, you know, and all these things are related. You know, all these things are related. And if a brother could, you know, post that uh Jeremiah 28 and 8 Bob Kasha. Okay. So yeah, this is brother Amar. All right, Cabal. This is Romans 8 and 28. And it says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Most High, to them who are called according to His purpose, man. And Lord will, we are the elect, man. You know, that's great, and it's a great chance we could be, man. That's why, you know, we should just double down in righteousness and finish out, man, and endure. Set our mind to endure, man. Have a mindset to let all this go when it need be. You know, have faith in our power. You know, during the tribulation. You know, and if we endure to the end, hey, we're the elect. You know, so it's a great chance that we could be the elect, man, which should make us, you know, really double down in righteousness, man. You brothers, you know, even, you know, you few sisters, man, that sincerely, you know, believe, striving for righteousness, man, you know, fighting in this thing, man. Nah, man, it's a great chance, okay, that we could be of the elect. And everything that we see happening is working for our favor, man. You know? So we need the straight of Hamas to be, we need to stay like it is. All right, as they say, close. Okay, which we went into that, you know, but we need them to keep running with their narrative. We hope it's a pestilence. Okay, we hope it's a breakout. Okay, more lockdowns and restrictions. You know, the devil is able to roll out his NWO, attempt to roll it out because we know he's going to fail. You know, because there's a lot of things that's failing in what this devil is trying to do, and we're gonna get into that as well, man. This nigga limited, man. The Lord is showing us that this nigga limited, man. You know, one thing I'm getting out of, you know, watching, you know, the scripture say the Lord, you know, sent us to be watchmen, you know, and you watching this nigga, man, and you really get up on Esau, man. Just like, man, the Lord got this nigga faded, man. This nigga is already failing. You know, the Lord got this nigga already failing, man. All right, which is going to make him have to rush even more, you know, because particular things, all right, ain't working for the devil, man. And that's the Lord through prophecy, man. Okay, beginning to get at Esau, man, and show this nigga that he's a mere man. Okay, and then the new world order is stupid. Okay, so let's go to Jeremiah 28 and 8 said, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and evil and pestilence, man. You know, all these things run together. Okay, war, evil, and pestilence, man. You see, all these prophecies are going to run together. You know, so just as our forefathers the old prophesied about these things and they came to pass, well, we're in the stead of the prophets of old. Lord will, you know, we of that number, man. You know, what the Lord say, will raise up prophets in these latter days, man. Okay, so here we are, you know, at the end of this thing, and we're seeing our power doing mighty works. You know, we're seeing our power doing mighty works, man, just as He said He would. Now, I want to go here in Matthew. Then I got a few videos I want to get, you know, the water for you brothers, you know, posting your precepts as well. You know, so let's go here. Uh, let's go here to Matthew real quick. All right, get this in the blue letter. All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 3. And it says, and as he sat at the Mount of Olives, this is Yahweh Shai, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Okay, so Yahweh Shai, is being asked by the disciples, like, what are the signs? What are the tokens? Okay, that's going to let us know that we're at the end of the world. Now, when we say the end of the world, the end of the age of Esau. Okay, this is Esau's age. That's why even when you go into this word world, okay, it is all right, it's not cosmos, it's aion, aion, if I'm saying it right in the Greek.
Strong's G165. Ion.
Aion. Yep.
Ion.
It says what? A period of time of age. You see? Forever, an unbroken age, perpetuity, okay, of time, eternity. And see, that's the age we got coming. Israel has a perpetual age, a continuing age, man. Just like that video the brothers be putting together, like that video we played, that's gonna be forever. That's gonna be our age. Okay, that's what it's gonna be forever. You see, it's gonna be a forever age of us in rulership, man, in our glory, man, in righteousness. You see? So we're at the end of Esau's age, man, which is the age of wickedness, the death, war, confusion. You see? We're at the end of this nigga age, man. So the disciples was inquiring about the end of this nigga age, man. Okay? And we're here. And the Lord gave the signs of what would be happening, and we're here. Okay? So let's go jump down to verse 6. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. And that's all we're hearing. And it's to the point to where, now they started to actually go at it. You see, it's one thing, because the scriptures say we'll hear wars and rumors of wars year after year, and then violence in the land. So we're starting to see these rumors turn violent. Okay, and it's just going to escalate. But now these rumors have turned to actual violence, man. Okay, they said that there's a lot of Iranians that died in this conflict. Okay, and there's a lot of damage that's been done, to American military bases in that region. The brother sent me a clip. I might can see if I can send. I should be able to email it to myself while I play one of these videos. But he showed a clip of this guy talking about how Trump was talking to the satellite companies about not showing the images of the damage done to these American bases, man. During this this war with Iran. When they was live, okay, when it was hot, okay. So we're gonna constantly see these things, man. Rumors of wars, rumors, because rumors is a circulating story, So we're gonna constantly, hear circulating stories about, different nations being involved in the background and different nations, preparing themselves to join. And, we're gonna constantly hear these things, man. It lets us know that we in the time of the end of his age, man. Okay, but we're in the beginning, as he's gonna go into. See that you not be troubled, for all of these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, so there's still things that have to play out, before this war fully escalates to World War III and goes nuclear, man. There's things that have to play out. Okay, and we know, as it says, verse 7, for nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places, man. So we know famines have to increase, pestilence have to increase, man. Okay, verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, man. So we're in the beginning of sorrows, man. Okay, and this is the beginning of things getting worse before they get worse, man. Okay, so I want to play this real quick. Let's go here. All right, because now you got supposedly another, all right, a virus. All right, I think it's called the let's see, Let's play this. So yeah, you had this cruise ship stranded. Okay, people quarantined because of what you call the hunter virus. All right, and they're gonna get into it. Okay, I got two quick videos. This one about 5 minutes, the other one about 3. So we'll play these, just to get up to date. All right, put us in the know.
3 people are dead and nearly 150 quarantined on a cruise ship off the coast of West Africa. The World Health Organization is investigating an outbreak of the rare but deadly hantavirus on board. William Brangham has more.
Now, there is no cure or FDA-approved vaccine for hantavirus, which is normally spread by contact with infected rodents.
There are no cure or no juice for it, Right, so they can set the stage, for another round of juices. Okay, you never know. Okay, there's no cure and there's no juice for it, man. We know Esau can spin that, all right, and turn that into opportunity, okay, to inject you people with more juice, which we went into yesterday, man. There's no telling what's in there, with nanotechnology, nanobots, and graphene and all these different things, man. So yeah, man, to get people more compatible with your digital infrastructure, the devil plans on rolling out, man. And also to depopulate as well. Okay, so let's play a little more.
But the WHO said today they believe there's evidence of a rare instance of human-to-human transmission on that ship. The agency has identified 2 confirmed and 5 suspected cases, including the 3 deaths. One man is now in critical condition in an ICU in South Africa. The WHO says the risk to the public remains low. But for more on this outbreak, we are joined again by Dr. Celine Gounder. She is editor-at-large for public health at KFF Health News and an infectious disease specialist and epidemiologist. Dr. Gounder, so nice to have you back on the program. Before we get to this particular outbreak, just tell us a little bit about what is hantavirus and how do humans normally get infected?
William, hantavirus is in fact a family of viruses that are carried by rodents. So people typically get infected by breathing in dust that has been contaminated with mouse or rat droppings, urine, or saliva. And most infections are happening when somebody disturbs a rodent-contaminated space. So it might be cleaning out a shed or sweeping in the basement, opening a building that's been closed for a while. In the US, the severe form is called hantavirus cardiopulmonary syndrome. So cardio, the heart, pulmonary, the lungs. It starts with fever, headache, and muscle aches, but then can rapidly progress to severe breathing problems and shock. And then depending on exactly which hantavirus, between 12 and 45% of people who develop that severe form go on to die. But I think it's really important to emphasize that this is exceedingly rare. In the United States, we've had less than 900 cases over the past 30 years. And globally, there are an estimated 200 to 300,000 infections a year, most of which are milder forms seen in Europe and Asia.
So what do we know about this outbreak on the ship? And how concerning should it be that the WHO seems to believe that there is human-to-human transmission of the virus?
So this is a ship that departed from Ushuaia in Argentina on April 1st and sailed through Antarctica and up the coast of Africa. As of today, 7 people have been affected, 3 passengers have died, and 2 cases have been confirmed to be hantavirus by lab tests, including one of the passengers who has died. As you mentioned earlier, of care in South Africa. They are in critical but stable condition. And there have been at least an additional person who is reporting a mild fever now. The WHO and South African authorities and others have been working on investigating these cases, taking samples from patients. But for now, the passengers remain aboard the ship, the remaining passengers, to be quarantined until the situation can be thoroughly investigated.
Let's say that the WHO does confirm a human-to-human transmission. Does that Yeah, I know that can be rare. It does happen with hantavirus, but would that potentially indicate that this virus is shifting or mutating in some way?
So we know that there is one form of hantavirus, Andes virus, which circulates in Argentina and Chile that has been documented to spread person to person. No other hantavirus does this, but this one does. We have evidence going back to the late 90s showing evidence of person to person transmission. So it's quite rare, but with this particular form of hantavirus, it is possible. But I do think it's important that people understand that this still requires very close, prolonged contact. It's very different still from viruses that can become pandemics like COVID or flu.
All right, that is Dr. Celine Gounder at KFF News.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna see, how these devils, spin it. They're gonna use this, and they can use this to release something else, that is more contagious. Okay, and just run with the narrative of hantavirus or whatever, man. So it's just on the watch. We're on our watch, man. There's no telling how the devil going to spin it, but it would be a perfect timing, to compound it with, all right, what's going on now with the energy crisis. Then you throw a pestilence in the mix, okay, and it just accelerates, this devil, having the the opportunity, to bring in, okay, a new world order, man. To bring in a digital system, ID tracking, okay, digital ID, shutting down travel, which, we're seeing a lot of travel, being shut down, okay, a lot of flights, all right, being grounded, you see, because they're stopping travel, and this will further just stop people from moving, okay, because to do this transition, man, they need people, you know, to be idle, they need people to be still, okay. As they're getting ready for this reset, man, they need people to be still, man. And we know, all right, with health, there's no limit to what they can do under the banner of, public safety and public health, man. So we'll see. Let's play this. This is another one. All right, this is a later one. All right, speaking about, the update, with the because they saying new cruisers test positive, so they're trying to say that, it's mutating to human. Okay, and we know they can just run with any narrative, man. Okay, so let's play this.
Continuing to follow more breaking news when it comes to passengers who were stranded on the cruise ship after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on that specific cruise. We also have live images coming out at this time, as later on today, we are going to be getting an update from the World Health Organization. Now, the Associated Press reporting this, that the head of the World Health Organization said on Wednesday that 3 patients with suspected hantavirus cases have been evacuated from an affected cruise ship and are on their way to the Netherlands. The WHO Director General said the UN Health Agency is working with the operators of this Dutch-flagged cruise ship to closely monitor the health of the passengers and the crew that are still on board. A little bit more background here for the story in case you have not been following closely. Now, the cruise ship at the center of this deadly outbreak, which is pictured here on the screen, is stuck off the coast of Cape Verde with nearly 150 people on board, and it was still waiting Wednesday to head to Spain's Canary Islands. Meanwhile, health authorities in South Africa and Switzerland have identified a strain of the virus that can be transmitted between humans in rare cases, and in these 3 specific cases that we have been talking about. Authorities in Switzerland announced on Wednesday that a man who returned from South America, and traveled on the cruise ship has tested positive for the virus and is receiving treatment. 3 passengers have died, and at least 5 people have been sickened by hantavirus on board of this cruise ship. Hantavirus usually spreads by inhaling contaminated rodent droppings. There have been 3 laboratory confirmed cases. Now, the ship left Argentina on April 1st on an Atlantic cruise and was scheduled to include stops in Antarctica, the Falkland Islands, and other locations. However, the itinerary may have changed because of the situation that is currently happening on board. Spain's health ministry said in a statement late on Tuesday that it would receive the MV Hondias vessel, this cruise ship, in the Canary Islands after a request from the World Health Organization and the European Center for Disease and Prevention Control. But for now, it remains here off the coast of Cape Verde, an island nation off West Africa in the Atlantic. The World Health Organization said passengers are isolating in their cabins. Also, South African health authorities said that they have identified the Andes strain of hantavirus in 2 passengers who were on the ship. The World Health Organization says the Andes virus, a specific species of hantavirus, is found in South America, primarily in Argentina and Chile. We can see that sometimes the feed glitches a little bit here, but again, live images coming from that cruise ship as we are tracking a hantavirus outbreak that has turned deadly, bringing us out to a social media post courtesy of the Associated Press, in which, again, they say that authorities in Switzerland said a man who returned from South America and traveled on a cruise ship hit by a hantavirus outbreak has tested positive for the virus and is receiving treatment. And as I mentioned off the top, a few people have been evacuated. 3 specific patients that are suspected of having the hantavirus have been evacuated from that cruise ship. Still, though, many more people are on board. 9 a.m. Eastern time today, we will get that update from the World Health Organization, and we will carry it for you here at Live Now from Fox as we track the latest.
Yeah, that World Health, WHO, all right, that World Health Organization is going to be interesting to see what they're going to say, because he definitely be, we know they talk to each other, through these announcements, they say particular words, all right, to let each other know, what to go ahead with and where they at, and make it seem like they're talking to the public. But it'll be interesting to see what they say. They say more than likely we can find it today. If I can find it today, try to see what they're talking about. But we know with the WHO, in the time of emergency, that the World Health Organization, where these are nothing but entities that the elites use to control, all right, the governments, to centralize control of these different governments, so under an emergency, who, all right, has the authority, the World Health Organization has the authority, all right, to implement, lockdowns and restrictions within these different governments, man, so WHO, World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, these are nothing but, okay, entities, all right, in which the elites use, okay, for central command of world affairs, man. What is economic, all right, health, okay. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they, run with this thing, man. Or if it's just something that comes and goes. But either way, it works in our favor. So let's go from there. All right. I got another. If a brother could put 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verses 5 and 6, Baba Gashah. Okay. I'm gonna cue up this next video. Now, you have, like I say, more kickback with these data centers, man. Okay, and also a brother can put that in Job. I think there's a 20th chapter, how he should be in straits. Okay. How every hand of the wicked should be upon him. Okay. So let's go here to this dealing with these data centers, which is getting a lot of pushback. Okay. It's getting a lot of pushback, man. Okay. Let's see. Because now what you have with these different cities, the locals are pushing for what you call data center, all right, moratorium. Okay. I'm going to get there real quick. All right, this the brother. All right, Yashima, tribe of Judah, the 2nd Esdras 15 and 5. Behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, all right, famine, death, and destruction, man. So we can't, because there's a lot of emphasis about the war and famine, but pestilence gonna play a major part as well, man. Because there's a way to eradicate a lot of people, and remember, these devils have a depopulation agenda, man. So we can't be surprised if these devils release something deadly out here, man. Or the Lord directly turn something loose. The Lord conjure up something, and turn it loose out here, man. All right, but either way, it work in our favor, man. You see, because all these things play into the downfall of this kingdom, man. Okay, so yeah, the Lord said, "I will bring." So whether He worked through Esau, okay, or whether the Lord, conjure up some type of pestilence, man. But we know mass death is coming. Esau is a tool, okay, of punishment on the left hand side, okay, until it's his time to be punished, okay. So the Lord said He's gonna bring plagues upon the world, man, the sword, famine, death, and destruction, man. So we know that these things are on deck, man. Okay. So we're seeing the second Ezra 15 and 6 said, "For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole world, and their hurtful works are filled." And see, ultimately, the Lord has a depopulation agenda because the earth is polluted with wickedness, man. Esau has, destroyed, all right, society, man. This man has destroyed society, man. This man has an extremely wicked influence, okay, in the earth, man. All right. And he's turned most of the earth to be anti-Messiah, man. So the Lord has a depopulation agenda, okay, to get rid of, all right, the wickedness of the earth, man. And the hurtful works are almost fulfilled, beginning with Esau, his destruction of the earth to try to pull off a new world order, okay, and this destructive nature of most of society, man. They're just destructive to themselves, destructive to, their surroundings, to everyone else, man. Okay. So these hurtful works are almost fulfilled, and the Lord, is getting ready to send for a mass judgment, man. Okay. So let's play this dealing with these data centers, man, because you keep seeing, more and more kickback, man. More and more pushback, and the scripture said that, yep. So let's play this.
So people are beginning to wake up and reject these AI data centers that are being put up all across the country. They're rejecting them for every practical reason you can imagine. First of all, these things take a tremendous amount of fresh water, and they blow through that fresh water, leaving people vulnerable to run out of water. That alone should be the end of the conversation. Like, you shouldn't put these things up on those grounds alone. But then you get to the noise pollution, the light pollution, the actual pollution, which in Memphis, we know Grok's data center is like basically poisoning people there. It is a fucking nightmare. It's a nightmare. Now take a look at this. Alarming. Small town Louisiana is in chaos because of Zuckerberg. Meta is building a $27 billion AI data center, 4 million square feet on 2,250 acres. They're permitted to suck 23 million gallons of water per day, while locals deal with noise, lights, dust, and skyrocketing bills. Estimates are saying 600 million gallons of water per year will be used to peaceful American towns into server farms for all of your data. Big tech gets richer off of the data that they legally stole from you, all because you signed the terms and conditions. Regular people are getting screwed. Say goodbye to any ounce of privacy that you think you may have had left. Who's really winning here? Tag someone who needs to see this. And then here we go. So let me play this video for you. Let's watch.
Meta's new $27 billion AI data center is causing chaos in a small town in Louisiana. In February, I flew down to Louisiana, to Richland Parish, a rural county where Meta is building a mega AI data center. Just to put it in perspective for you, this AI data center is 4 million square feet, 2,250 acres. That's roughly 70 football fields. When I was in Richland Parish, I spoke to over a dozen residents and really got to hear their concerns. People are talking about how their rents are going up because there are thousands of workers coming from out of state, staying in these massive RV parks. I also spoke to local businesses that are suffering. While there are definitely businesses that are making money hand over fist, you're also finding small businesses that are struggling because they can't get in with the right people or get the right catering jobs for the Meta workers on site, for example. And then you're also just seeing a tremendous amount of noise and bright lights. This is a massive site that's brightly lit all night long, and people just see a halo over their house. It's important to keep in mind that this area of Northeast Louisiana has typically struggled with jobs, with poverty, and this AI data center is considered to be an economic boom opportunity for the whole region. A lot of people ask me whether these mega AI data centers are worth the disruption. I can tell you that I've now visited 5 across the country, in Texas and Michigan and in Arizona, as well as Louisiana. And I can say it's hard to tell how it's going to play out. They are incredibly disruptive. The residents often don't realize what's happening until it's already happening. There are many people who still hope that the long term is beneficial for these regions, but right now it's chaos.
Damn. This is what it sounds like living half a mile from a data center at 1 a.m. I'll play the video for you in a second. They're sucking 5 million gallons of water per day in a drought state, while you can't even collect rainwater in some places. Constant roar, no sleep, destroyed property values. This is the AI future they sold us. Wake up. All right, so here we go. This is what it sounds like to live half a mile from a data center. Oh, no. If that was happening 24/7, I would lose my fucking mind. Noise at 1 a.m. Oh, no. No shot, son. No shot. You are not ready for this rabbit hole. AI data centers are guzzling billions of gallons of water to cool their servers, but here's the mind blower. They're running it through reverse osmosis, stripping minerals plus memory, creating dead null water that forgets everything. Your body is 60% water, thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. This seems like it might be a little woo-woo type stuff here. So I don't know about that. But let me also show you this. Texas is about to get absolutely cooked. This new data center in the Texas Panhandle will use more electricity than all Texas homes combined times 2. What on earth? All right, let's watch this one.
How big is the new data center campus they're building in the Texas Panhandle? It's the biggest one in the world. It will use as much power as all of the homes in the entire state of Texas combined times 2. It will use more power than 38 states. Not combined, but it will use more power than all of the power used in any one of 38 different states. The data center campus portion of it is, I believe, 18 million square feet. It will sit on a piece of ground that is 5 square miles. So you can drive by it for 5 miles, make a right turn and drive by it for another 5 miles. That's pretty big. You know what the wild part is? The company building it has no knowledge of data centers. Nope, not in the data center business. Project Matador. Look it up.
Jesus Christ. So we're building all these data centers, light pollution, noise pollution.
Yeah, so you have one data center, Project Matador, that's supposed to use as much electricity as all the houses in Texas, man. It's crazy, which is going to take a lot of fossil fuel to keep that thing going, and that's why you have, this scramble for resources. Okay, and this is why they want to delete, unalive a lot of people to free up resources, because the data centers are the backbone of this new world order. Okay, this is how, all right, the technocracy will govern the earth. Okay, through being able to compute, all right, a lot of data real time, okay, and speed. Okay, so yeah, this big Project Matador, man. Now, here it is, these data centers use all these resources. Now, let's look at this. Because what you have, a lot of these local cities, these local citizens are beginning to jump ahead, okay, of these data center constructions, and they're requesting what you call a data center, all right, moratorium. All right. It says what is a data center moratorium? It says data center moratoriums are temporary halts on new construction driven by concerns over massive energy, water usage, and grid strain particularly from AI expansion. In March 2026, federal legislation was introduced to freeze new large-scale AI data centers while various states, including Maine, all right, are pursuing localized pauses, man. Okay, so these now, as the scriptures say, okay, people ain't with this, man. That's why he has to bring desperation to sell his new world order, man. All right, now there's gonna be simpletons, okay, who just gonna go whatever thing with whatever is going on. You know, they look at technology. It's people that worship this technology, you know. So you have people that worship this man's technology, man. Okay. But then you have, those, all right, that are concerned about the destructive nature of this man's technology, man. And are beginning, all right, to go against it, man. You see? Now, let me pull this up. Something that's dealing with the devil new world order. But let's get a couple of precepts. All right. But yeah, man, now the devil, he's beginning, to be in scrapes. Okay. He's having, he's seeing that he's limited on resources. Okay. He's getting kickback from, the working class. Because when you go into this, there's a brother Quantum Wap, GMS prayer, always hopeful late. Job 20:22, it says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in scrapes. Every hand of the wicked, all right, shall be upon him. All right. And you go into that word wicked in the Hebrew, it's amal, okay, which goes into, a wretch, a worker, a laborer. Okay. And we're seeing an uprising of the working class, okay, against, this man's new world order, his infrastructure. All right, the data centers, the destruction of farming. All right, because this devil, you have this thing called vertical farming, and this plays a part, all right, in his digital system, but even he's catching hell with it, So in the fullness of his sufficiency, man, as he's getting closer to, doing his transition, man, he's starting to find himself in scrapes, man. And this prophecy, man. Okay, and he's going to get to the point to where he mandates, okay, the sea hip. Okay, we know he's going to get there far, man. Okay, but this devil, achieving this and pulling this thing off, okay, like he wants to, man, he's not going to get that far, man. Okay, the Lord's getting ready to intervene, okay, and cut this man off. You see, this nigga got to be stopped, man. The Lord tired this tack ass nigga, man. Okay, if we tired this nigga, the Most High, which he's bound by his word, so things are playing out. So he's speeding up the time so his word can be performed and get this nigga out of here, man. Okay, but we see this nigga in scrapes, man. Okay, in verse 23, it says, Job 20:23 says, when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and he shall rain upon him while he is eating, man. So while this devil's in the midst of rolling this thing out, man, he got this thing mandated, so he done switched over the currency, you see, to digital, fully digital. Okay, and while he's trying to roll this thing out and establish this thing, man, the Lord's going to cast fury upon this man and rain fire upon him, man. And this war is going to go out of control. It's going to go nuclear, all right? And it's going to destroy everything that this devil, okay, has built up. This whole new world order infrastructure is going to be destroyed, man. Okay? Everything that this devil is trying to establish, all right, is going to be destroyed, man. Okay? And we're seeing the steps leading to it. Okay? So let's go to this real quick. Okay, I asked, so you have this thing called vertical farming, and we're gonna watch a video on to show you how this devil losing every aspect, man. All right, so vertical farming is the practice of growing crops in vertically stacked layers, often within controlled indoor environments like warehouses, or shipping centers. Now listen to this, man. All right, it said it uses soilless systems such as hydroponics or aeroponics and LED lighting to maximize space, reduce water usage up to 95%, and enable year-round production without pesticide, man. Okay, so this nigga is always trying to operate outside the natural way that's already set up. Okay, this man loves trying to operate outside of the natural order that the Heavenly Father has already set up, man. You know, and he loses every time. All right, he wants to try to clone meat, try to clone animals. He wants to try to get men pregnant. Now he got this vertical formula, which is soilless. From right there, when I said it's soilless, wait a minute. The soil is where they get the nutrients from. Okay, and then they need natural sunlight. Okay, the Lord had this thing figured out from the beginning, man. Esau was just trying to remix everything, man. Failing, man, and it's a inferior way. He tries to make it seem like his way is superior to the way of the Most High. You know, and he's trying to free up resources for these data centers, man. You know, that's why I say that these vertical forms, all right, use 95% less water. All right, because he needs a lot of water for them data centers, man. Okay, so this devil, you know, he's in the spirit of trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, man. Okay, this nigga don't got what it take to pull this off, man. So, hey, the Lord got to where we just watching this nigga fail, man. You know, if a brother can post that, Sirach 25:7, Bible Shah. So let's go to this real quick because I looked it up dealing with a vertical form. How would a vertical form play into a digital system? Okay. Let's go here. Bring the chat, blow the dust off the chat GPT. Okay, I said, will vertical form, I asked, will vertical forming benefit a global digital system? Short answer, yes. All right. It said vertical forming isn't directly about digital system, but it fits neatly into a highly networked, data-driven global infrastructure. Think of it as a physical layer that can be optimized and coordinated by digital systems. Here's how they connect. Okay, it says data-driven agriculture. Vertical farms rely heavily on sensors, automation, and AI, monitoring light, nutrients, humidity, and growth in real time. This ties into concepts like the Internet of Things and precision agriculture. A global digital system could coordinate thousands of such farms, constantly optimizing yields. Supply chain integration. It says a digital global system could dynamically link vertical farms to demand. Okay. You know, here it says cities signal food shortages and spikes in demand. Algorithms adjust production schedules, distribution routes, update in real time. All right, because we know that in this system, man, he wants to ration you out life. Okay, and these vertical farms were meant to go, all right, in these smart cities. Okay, it says this reduces waste and makes food systems more responsive. It says urban resilience. It says vertical farming allows food production inside cities. Okay, it's going back into you don't have to leave nowhere. And this is why they're buying up the farmland, all this farmland being set on fire. You know, millions of acres of farmland just randomly being set on fire. Okay, because his mind, he wants to go to this, man. But all right, but even with this vertical farming, he's in straits. Okay, it said reducing reliance on long distance logistics in a globally connected system. That means less vulnerability, all right, to disruptions, climate conflict, transport issues, faster local response, all right, coordinated globally. It said this aligns with resilient strategy used in smart cities. Emergence, it says, this aligns with resilient strategies used in smart cities, man. Showing you that vertical farming, is intended for these smart cities, man. Okay, because this man, he doesn't want it. There ain't gonna be any more family farms. Okay, it won't be any more homestead. Okay, because in order for this man to have control, he needs you in this confined area, man. It's a very tacky way that this nigga is trying to be the Most High, man. It's a very inferior, dumbed down, tacky way, primitive way that this nigga is trying to be the most high, man. Okay, it said vertical farms consume significant electricity, especially for lighting. A global digital system could coordinate them with energy grids, run farms when renewable energy is abundance, all right, scale production based on energy availability. This links agriculture with smart grid systems, man. Okay, so this is the devil new way of farming that he wants, all right, to be in these smart cities called vertical farming. You know, you can look more into it. Now, just to show you that even this showing to be a failure, man. Okay, just a quick video. All right. Let's play this. All right, so let's play this.
Imagine a world where skyscrapers don't just house offices, but entire farms stacked on top of each other growing lettuce, herbs, and even strawberries right in the middle of crowded cities. No soil, no sunlight, just futuristic towers filled with glowing LED lights. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, that was the dream of vertical farming, a dream that attracted billions of dollars, hyped up startups, and bold promises of solving food shortages and climate change. But fast forward to today, and many of those vertical farm companies are shutting down, going bankrupt, or quietly disappearing. So, what exactly happened? Why did one of the most hyped ideas in agriculture turn into such an epic failure? Let's break it down. Vertical farming wasn't just a cool idea. It was marketed as the future of food. The concept was simple. Instead of growing crops across acres of farmland, why not grow them indoors, in vertical stacks, closer to the consumers? It promised less water usage, up to 90% less than traditional farming. It promised year-round harvests unaffected by weather, pests, or climate change. It promised local food production, cutting down on transportation costs and carbon footprints. On paper, it looked perfect. Feed a growing population, save the planet, and make money doing it. And for a while, investors loved it. Hundreds of millions of dollars poured into companies like AeroFarms, Plenty, and Infarm. Even big names like Jeff Bezos and SoftBank jumped in. But here's the catch. Farming indoors isn't cheap. Those glowing LED lights, they burn a massive amount of electricity. The climate-controlled rooms, they require constant air conditioning, heating, and humidity control. And then there's the technology itself. Hydroponics and aeroponics require pumps, sensors, and a whole infrastructure that costs millions to build and maintain. All of that makes vertical farming incredibly expensive compared to traditional farming. At the end of the day, they weren't growing cheap staple crops like wheat, rice, or corn. Instead, most vertical farms stuck to high-value greens like lettuce, basil, and microgreens, because that's all the economics allowed. But even then, a bag of lettuce grown indoors often cost double or triple the price of regular lettuce from outdoor farms. Consumers didn't want to pay that premium, and grocery stores weren't willing to stock much of it. So despite all the hype, vertical farms struggled to compete with the simplicity and low cost of traditional agriculture. One by one, the cracks started to show. AeroFarms, one of the biggest names in the industry, filed for bankruptcy in 2023 after burning through over $100 million in funding. Infarm, a European vertical farming startup, once valued at over $1 billion, announced mass layoffs and pulled out of most markets. Even the heavily funded Plenty, backed by SoftBank and Jeff Bezos, has faced delays and massive financial losses. Reports suggest that for every dollar earned, some vertical farms were spending $5 to $6 just to keep the lights on. Investors who once believed vertical farming was the next green revolution started backing away. What was once seen as a solution to world hunger was now being called an unsustainable business model. So why did vertical farming fail so badly? The truth is, it was a mix of overpromises, high costs, and misaligned expectations. The technology works, but it only works for a limited number of crops and at a very high cost. Instead of feeding the world, vertical farms ended up producing pricey salads for wealthy urban consumers. And while the idea of farming in skyscrapers sounded futuristic, the energy problem was never solved. With rising electricity costs, it simply wasn't financially sustainable. Does this mean vertical farming is dead forever? Not necessarily. Some small-scale farms, especially those connected to restaurants or premium markets, are still doing well. Advances in renewable energy and cheaper LED lights could make the model more viable in the future. But for now, the grand vision of vertical farms feeding entire cities remains a dream that collapsed under its own weight. The story of vertical farming is a powerful reminder that not every futuristic idea is practical, and not every startup hype leads to real change. So, what do you think? Should we give vertical farming another chance? Or is it just a high-tech fantasy?
No, man, it's time it's time to pack Esau up, man, and all these dumbass ideas. Okay? Because here it is, you got this big free sun, you got free water, you got all this earth full of rich soil, and you nigga want to move farming to a skyscraper, man. He's a caveman, man. Okay, Esau was a goddamn caveman. The Lord has got this nigga evolving it back into a caveman right before us, man. Okay, this is stupid, man. Okay, you have all this free energy that the Lord created for farming in the beginning. Okay, and this nigga, all right, want to take farming to a skyscraper. Okay, with all the cautions, he wanted use synthetic lightning and soilless, and this is just for the devil to say he has a one up on the Most High. Okay, if a brother can also put that too in Isaiah, all right, yeah, Isaiah 29:16. Okay, this nigga Esau overrated, man. And he believed his own hype. And the Most High got this man looking silly as hell out here in these streets, man. Okay, AI failing, people sabotaging the AI, rejecting the AI. Okay, data centers, he doesn't have enough energy to fuel all the data centers, man. Okay, and now with this vertical farming, that's a flop. Okay, so yeah, this nigga last 3-4 albums have flopped, man. Military went out there, all right, Iran, okay, got skull drug. You see, got his ass, all right, absolutely skull drug, okay, in Iran. So these nigga last few albums done flop, man. And this global reset, this gonna be the biggest flop ever. Okay, but yeah, this nigga last 4-5 albums ain't make the charts, man. Okay, so let's play this. This is let me see if I pull this up real quick too. I might just play it over the for the brother sent me this. The other brother Tyler one from down here, Mississippi camp. Let me see. Let's see. If I let me pull it up, so I can. I'm trying to pull this up. This might be it.
Destroyed like 13 U.S. bases in the region. Really? Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, you can't even see the satellite images because the Pentagon has asked satellite imaging companies to not allow people to view above the region. So when they say 15 Americans are dead, you think it's more? Definitely more. Damn. And the numbers, they've really suppressed the numbers. The problem is it's not a war that's winnable, right? The only way you can win that war is you have to go in and obliterate an entire country full of people. And that starts World War III because China and Russia and everybody else is not going to sit by and just watch you do that. The problem was that the Iranians figured out the decentralization thing, and they figured out that you need to not have everything centered in one guy like Saddam Hussein. And so they've been very successful in that. And so it's much, much harder than we thought it was going to be. Iran's already destroyed like 13 U.S. bases in the region. Really? Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, you can't even see the satellite images because the Pentagon has asked satellite imaging companies to not allow people to view above the region. So when they say 15 Americans are dead, you think it's more? Definitely more. Damn. And the numbers, they've really suppressed the numbers. The problem is it's not a war that's winnable, right? The only way you can win that war is you have to go in and obliterate an entire country full of people. And that starts World War III because China and Russia and everybody else is not going to sit by and just watch you do that. The problem was that the Iranians figured out the decentralization thing. And they figured out that you need to not have everything centered in one guy like Saddam Hussein. And so they've been very successful at that. And so it's much, much harder than we thought it was going to be. Iran's already destroyed like 13 US bases.
So yeah, the elder brother Tyler Warren sent me that, man, and like I say, Trump, told satellite companies not to release those images of those bases, man, because they're gone. They're gone. Okay, they've been eradicated. Like Trump been using that word obliterated. Those bases are obliterated, man. Okay, so everything this nigga doing is starting to fail, and they last little inkling, okay, is to crash the economy. Okay, to reset it and attempt to roll out the digital system, make the MOTB mandatory, and then we'll see. So after you make the MOTB mandatory, let's see what happens after that. Okay, this is the brother servants of Yahweh 144, Sirach 25:7 says, "There be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemies," man. And we're seeing this nigga fall, man. Okay, we're seeing the Lord humiliate this man and turn this man to a caveman. Okay, we're watching these things happen real time. Okay, and this devil, okay, with this with this agenda, this new world order agenda, he's trying to outdo the Most High with with technology. Okay, with his mortal technology, man. Isaiah 29:16, it says, "Surely," all right, this is another one from the brother servants for Yahweh 144. It says, "Surely your turn of things upside down should be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not." Okay, so what we're seeing, what this devil is doing, the Lord's going to esteem it as the potter's clay. Because the way Esau is trying to fashion the earth, the Lord is displeased, okay? Because the Lord is the overseer. He's the Most High, okay? And what he's going to do, he's going to break this thing up, man. He's just going to shatter, all right, everything, man, with this war, all right? And with Yahweh Shai, he's going to shatter, okay, everything that Esau has framed in the earth, man, okay? It said, "For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not, or shall the thing framed say," all right, let's go down. Yeah, say of him that framed it, you have no understanding. All right. And when we see these devils, do this thing like vertical farming and, trying to, 3D print food and, okay, trying to get, trying to create pregnancy outside the womb. This is the devil, okay, saying that he can one up the Most High, like the Most High lacks understanding, man. Okay, this is what this devil is saying, is like the Most High lacks understanding, and he's coming in to advance what's already established, man. Okay, and he's being made to look like a goddamn fool, man. Okay, and let's get there real quick. Isaiah 44 and verses 24 and 25. Okay, and we can end it there, Bible shot. But yeah, man, they said those bases are so destroyed, man. Like, they're lots, man. They turned them US bases to parking lots, man. Okay, and they just opened it up for what? The kings of the east to come forth, man, and tear the top out them small hats. Okay, they're gonna tear the top out their head, man. Okay, everything is working for our favor, man. Every event that's happening on the global stage is working for our benefit, man. The Lord got everything working in favor, all right, for his hopeful elect, man. Okay. I think that's it with the video. Let me make sure. And then let me put some of these videos in the description box for you brothers. I mean, in the comment Let's see. In case y'all want to revisit, look into those things. Put a couple of these in. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. All right. So yeah, let me go get there real quick. So let's go here. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, come, brother. Yeah, so this is the brother Yashima tribe of Judah, Isaiah 54 and 24. He said, "Thus said the Lord, Yahweh Bashim al Shaddai, Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things, that stretches out, all right, that stretches forth the heavens alone, that spread abroad the earth, okay, by myself, man. You know, so the Lord, all right, he is, man. You know, he didn't make no mistakes with creation, man. Okay, and Esau, he's nowhere near, okay, having the capability of replacing the Most High. He's nowhere near that. He's so far from that, man. Okay, and the Lord is showing it. The Lord is intentionally embarrassing this nigga, showing this nigga. You know, the Lord got us looking at this nigga embarrass himself on the global stage, man. Okay, because he's nowhere near being able to pull that off. All right, to replace the Most High with technology, man. Okay, nowhere close to it, man. Okay, Isaiah 44 and 25, it says that frustrated the tokens, okay, of liars, okay, and maketh diviners mad, okay, that turn the wise men backward and make their knowledge foolish, man. So we're seeing Esau being turned backwards, man, and that's how he know he got a short time. Okay, this is a part of this devil understanding he have a short time, because Esau know he limited. Esau be capping like he got it figured out all the time. He even be doing stuff to make it seem like he just in full control. Oh, I meant to do that. No, you didn't, nigga. This shit backfired on you. Okay? A lot of things be backfiring on this nigga, man. All right? Certain things he got working and it's moving according to plan, but there's things that's not working for this devil. Be backfiring, man. You know? So the Lord is turning wise men backwards, man. That goes into this devil knowing he had but a short time, because he know, like, damn, I'm limited. Damn, this, you know, he's wearied in his counsel. Okay, it says, and maketh their knowledge foolish, man. Okay, and you look at what this nigga is trying to do, everything that he's trying to do, like, this is dumb. This is really foolish what this nigga is trying to do, man. Okay. So this where we at, man. You know, and it's beautiful to see, you know, that the Lord's allowing us to see this man, okay, fail. Okay. And we know that he's gonna come with great wrath. Okay. And it's gonna be out of frustration. Okay. He's coming with great wrath, man. It's gonna be out of frustration, man. Okay, and he's just gonna try to force this thing. Okay. And in the midst of that, the Lord's gonna intervene, man. You know, he's gonna get to a certain point, then the Lord's gonna intervene. So yeah, that's the point. All right. Lord will, you know, you brothers. All right. And you few sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect Shalom.